Welcome back. Good morning. Thank you for staying with Morning Express, 22 minutes past 7 a.m. Good morning and thank you for making time. Of course, we take a look at the latest political developments, it being May 18th, an instrumental date in the by-elections that are set to happen in various constituencies across the country, namely Bonchari Constituency and Juja, following the death of the representatives earlier on this year. Of course, Ruri Ward in Nyandarua County is also holding by-election, and we'll definitely anticipate the outcome of this particular round of elections, bearing in mind that in Bonchari, just to borrow from that particular constituency, ODM is fielding a candidate. We also have the Jubilee Party. So gone are the days where the handshake candidate would get unanimous support from both sides of this handshake. Also, UDA, the United Democratic Alliance, is fronting a candidate. And that is Oro Teresa Bitutu, who is the wife of the late Member of Parliament Oro Oyoka, who died around February 15th this year. That's in Bonchari. Over to Juja constituency, following the death of Wakape, who was better known as Francis Waitito. The wife, Waitito Susan Jerry, is flying the Jubilee Party flag high in terms of trying to clinch this particular seat, even as the Progressive Empowerment Party, whose candidate is Ndongo George Coimbury, who also vied in the 2017 election, coming in at second, is also putting his weight in this particular race to represent the people of Juja constituency. Still with me via way of Zoom, Martin Owino, Member of Parliament, Mviwa constituency, joining us from Mombasa. Let's start with Bonchari constituency, because this is where ODM party is fronting a candidate, and that is Oimeke Robert Pavel, and of course facing stiff competition, if I must say that way, from Opore Zebedeo John, who is a candidate in the Jubilee Party. Let's start from the handshake point of view. No handshake candidate this time round. I know it's a democratic space, but what say you about these particular questions that may rise as to why ODM and Jubilee are fielding separate candidates?
Thank you, Rogers. You know, building up candidacy starts with the grassroots, and there are people who feel, oh, it is me who can pull it and all that. We had hoped that we would join as a handshake, being one person. But as you say, there's a democracy. So here we are. We feel good about it. I've just talked with our SG down there. Things looks tough but good for us. What I would say, Rogers, is that let democracy prevail. The security is trying to intimidate people. You just had yesterday or the day before, Stewart is stemming into a private home without even search warrant, trying to say there's legal meetings. You know, those are the things which we washed away with the 2010 Constitution. We don't need to do that. So I would like the security people, organs to make sure people vote peacefully without intimidation. Let the outcome come when people are voted, and let the votes be counted and the results be reflective of the people who voted. So to our end, it seems good if those processes I've just said is well managed.
Okay, allow me to bring up something that sort of made headlines yesterday evening, where ODM Treasurer Timothy Bosire was allegedly accosted by several police officers. Do we know the state of which he's in? Was he taken into custody? Might you be privy to this information?
I'm waiting to hear that. Maybe after this I'll follow up. I've not heard, but that is one of the things which I was trying to say, Rogers. When you, and actually we put the CS to this because that is his hometown, that he should really make sure that the security organs are non-partisan, especially when they are dealing with electorates. Otherwise, we will be misconstrued that his interest is being propelled by the security. You know, arbitrarily arresting people under guises of causing mayhem, and you cannot even produce evidence in court. It's wrong. It's wrong. It's clear intimidation. That's why we are saying they should keep off. Let people vote and let the winner takes the win. And that is democracy. And for long we have been independents. I mean, how elusive is this? Let people compete, yes, but let the winner wins fairly and squarely, and we move on. So I'll follow up when we are done with this, but it was not a good gesture when it comes to security awards.
Okay, well noted. Let's belabor that particular point, because in this particular Bonchari by-election, ODM and UDA, unlikely partnership right there, actually castigated the state or elements of statecraft during the campaign season, accusing the government of using state machinery to support one candidate, the Jubilee Party candidate. Well, what say you about this? Because this is not the first time we've had various parties, especially during by-elections, raise complaints on lack of a level playing field as they go into the by-elections. Talk to me about this, because in Kabuchai or Matungu, we also had the ODM party actually raise similar concerns due to state machinery being used. What's your take?
Right, and that is what we should vanquish as Kenyans. The fact that you want your person to win. Like now they say the lead candidate is the state candidate. There's nothing like state candidate. You want votes, you talk to people, you win their hearts, and they vote for you. We suffered the same in the coast, and now we are facing the same. What I can say, Rogers, is that let us grow up. You can't force people or force the outcome of any election to go your way. Kenyans, especially those in leadership, should learn that politics is give and take. If you are defeated or you are being defeated, you should actually learn from that and then prepare yourself for the next contest so that you don't force through the throat of the people throw their will out. We are concerned that if it goes the way it started 2-3 days ago, I was in Kisii, it will not be a good, fair reflection for a mature government as we have been independent for over 50 years, 7 years. No, we need to move from 1.A to point B in terms of maturity conducting our election. It's not fair, and it's very sad. Just very sad. That is what is going on. There's a lot of intimidation. The government feels they have to win for Matiang'i to be known that he has popularity, he has powers in that region. But that's not how you measure power. In fact, let me say this: civil servant service is a career. If we can reflect with, we can compare with mature democracies. If you are a civil servant, you're a state person, it's a career. And you cannot mix politics and civil service. No, that's why in our proposal for BBI, we want to take away, let the politicians, the ministers, so that they can defend policies and all that. And when they act politically, nobody blames them. But let the public service persons be public servants to stay in that order. That is how governments are being run. But you cannot have a civil servant who is also fronting for politics. It's a mess. So there's no clear line where we can behave and reach. That's what we have here. And those who are in those offices are really abusing the state offices, so to speak.
Exactly. Intimidation reports have been rife, especially at Bonchari Constituency. But be that as it may, we sort of appreciate the importance of this particular by-election coming close as 14 months to the general election Talk to me about what this means, what the Bonchari elections might specifically mean for these three frontmen. Of course, we have Ruto through the UDA party. We have Raila, your party leader, through the ODM party. And of course, what you've mentioned, CS Matiang'i is also involved in the local political arena in one way or the other, trying to measure his influence in the region, according to reports. What say you about what this particular by-election means in terms of a litmus test?
First of all, it will show who has the muscle. I know Ruto, sorry, he will not pull this through. So the real test here is between Jubilee and ODM. And as I said earlier, we feel pretty good about it. If it is not interfered with, we will come through because Kisii area, region, let me say the whole region, as a region, it's ODM zone. And if there was a good, proper arrangement, actually the Jubilee candidate pulled out earlier enough so that we have easy election. But as it may, election is election. They're there. We just have to put our vigilance so that there is no rigging again and intimidating of voters.
Okay, I want to give you a run
Definitely.
for your money, especially when you mentioned that this might be an ODM zone. I mean, I respect the fact that ODM did win the gubernatorial, senatorial, and women rep seats, but they emerged empty-handed. ODM emerged empty-handed when it came to constituencies within the Kisii region. What's your take on this? Because many might argue, bearing in mind the previous member of parliament was from the PDP party.
Right. You know, Roger, it's very interesting how sometimes the local politics also can mess up the election and choosing of a candidate, especially from the party nominations. I think that is where we didn't do very well. We picked someone who was a little bit less popular. But we have learned from that. That's why we came up with the Pavel, and I hope because of his popularity there and vigor to campaign, he really campaigned seriously. We hope we'll take it through now. Yeah, that is the area where we failed, but all those governor, senator, and women rep, we pulled through. And those forces which pulled through are down there. So it will be a miracle for Jubilee to get away with this. Or it will take more intimidation, which we will challenge. But having said that, we had an earlier discussion with the earlier part of this show, which was doubting how can three commissioners conduct these elections. I hope they would understand that when the statutes are against the Constitution really prevails. And that's why these two by-elections will stand, even when it is conducted by three commissioners. So the Constitution says clearly, when you have 3 to 9 commissioners, they can still do business. That's why it is going on.
Okay, well noted. We'll definitely delve deeper into those intricacies following that ruling by the 5-judge bench. Allow me to bring into the conversation Jimmy Kagoni, who is a political analyst joining us right here in studio. Of course, I'd beg your take, your reaction on the Bonchari and Juja constituency by-election. Let's start with Bonchari. Of course, ODM fronting a candidate, Jubilee Party also fronting a candidate. Gone are the days where there was a handshake candidate. But interestingly, UDA went with a woman candidate this time round in the form of the wife to the late member of parliament. Do you anticipate an upset in any way during the vote counting to this particular constituency by-election?
Yes, in a big way, actually. And good morning to our viewers. And today is quite a big day, like you have just mentioned, especially because of the high stakes in the two by-elections, both Bonchari and Juja. I've seen some media actually calling it is a showdown Tuesday, which I believe it could be so. And like you correctly mentioned that I think in the past, in the previous by-elections, we haven't seen a combination of UDA, ODM, and Jubilee fighting against each other in regard to a candidate. And this is going to be quite hard. Like we have seen where ODM at some point you'd see that they are actually agreeing with Jubilee, or you see it's, in places where the handshake candidate is going against the UDA, but this is not really the case. In fact, I would want to use some words of some commentaries who said, possibly looking at it, this could be one of the most objective by-election where it is really the candidate and the people who really matter in Bonchari. I'm not sure whether I would see the same about Juja, so to speak. Because for Juja, the stakes of the political parties that are there and the party leaders is quite critical. The three candidates who are really perceived to be the front runner. There is a candidate for Jubilee, the wife of the late MP. There is the candidate of PEP, a party that is also associated with Moses Kuria, and there is also an independent candidate who is also there. Now, when you look at the scenario and the demographics of Juja, of course, Jubilee would really want to dominate such area. They would not really want in any way, when you look at the crowd, they would not want in any way to feel like their crowd has actually been penetrated. Unfortunately, using that word reservedly, you realize now the person who have actually penetrated is actually an insider, because Moses Kuria also hails from Kiambu, and this is in Kiambu constituency, county. And other than that, PEP is literally also associated with UD. So it is an opposition within, so to speak. Now, I've seen some few figures that have been flying here and there, the polls that have been conducted there, that it could be quite a tight race between the PEP candidate and the Jubilee candidate. We are yet to confirm that by the end of the day. We'll see how the people of Juja are really going to behave. But it has a bigger perception beyond the candidates themselves. Okay. In fact, this is where the party leaders, the president himself is seen to be going through an opposition against Moses Kuria himself. In fact, we would say this is a Gatondo thing, so to speak. And it's a matter of seeing the younger Gatondo version versus the stronger Gatondo version and seeing how it's going to be. And we wait to see how the people of Juja are going to respond to that.
Exactly. They'll have their way, but still on that point, especially on influence of the 2022 politics on this by-elections. On the recent by-elections, we've definitely seen there's not too much focus on the candidates themselves, but what they represent in terms of the political personalities, in terms of the parties they're going with. Even if it's an independent candidate, we would align them to one individual or the other with respect to Msambweni. What say you about the influence of 2022 politics in this by-elections? Is it a good thing, especially since voters might not necessarily vote for this candidate and what they have to offer, but they might be thinking of the bigger picture, the 2022 politics? What's your take on this?
That's my greatest fear, because this kind of by-elections, the Juja, the Msambweni, the ones that we had, you will realize that the residents themselves from those respective areas that are voting are getting lost now to the issues of the parties and the competition at the national level, and forgetting that you're actually voting somebody to go and represent you. There is an agenda that they need to finish. There is some project that they need to accomplish. There is quite a lot. And during that period, before even the by-elections came, or rather before the by-election due to the by-election date, you realize that you have also lost some few periods. The other constituencies were still getting their projects. They were still accomplishing what was going on. Now, when that period, when you didn't have the representation, it's not like the rest of the country had stopped. That is really happening a lot. And you can tell that now the by-elections are actually becoming the springboards to prepare candidates and parties for the 2022 and not even anything to do with this particular period when they didn't need the representation. Of course, what happens is that the political temperatures really go high. Like, for instance, I will tell you for sure today, Juja is going to be quite a big trigger to what is going to happen in Kiambaa. In fact, I'll tell you for sure that if the PEP candidate wins today, then it is almost perceived to be a walkover for the PEP candidate in Kiambaa. And therefore, the stakes are quite high for Moses Kuria, and the associates would really want to ensure that they are able to deliver the seat for Juja.
Okay.
But at the same time, Jubilee is here to defend their area in what they perceive this is our region, these are our seats, and we really need to keep them. And by the virtue that this is also associated to be the president's home area, and therefore they would not want to allow this kind of a thing. Now, this is one county which has lost 2 members of parliament, and it has also lost 2 members of county assembly. Now, that is not easy. We saw that in Wendani, Kahawendani. It was to remind you then. By then, the political temperatures had not really started to go high. The stakes were a bit moderate. It was more of people starting off to show their muscle. There was little about UDA that would actually be mentioned that.
Okay.
That has completely changed. What might shock you is that for some reason, UDA decided not to have a candidate for Juja.
True.
Maybe that is an aspect that we might need to check and ask ourselves. We saw the political might they threw behind the MCA candidate in Roria Ward in Nyandarua. And I am aware that there are actually some candidates who are interested to get the UDA ticket. But for some reason, UDA said that they are not interested in that. Maybe that is also an aspect. And the question would be, could they be behind anybody, either as an independent candidate or the PEP candidate? Could UDA be actually disguising themselves behind any of these candidates? Maybe that is also an aspect that we might need to check. But all in all, maybe just to answer your question, is that are the people really getting the value for their money? That's the big question. Are we really getting lost to the national politics? Maybe somebody needs to answer that. And is the future of 2022 now being defined by these by-elections? I think to a great extent, it is shaping the 2022 politics.
Okay. Martin Zeo is still with us via way of Zoom. Are we getting lost in the national political discourse when it comes to this by-elections? Give us your take on that, but also add up on the UDA factor, because this is a new party, and I'm sure come 2022, they will be using the card that, yes, we were able to battle it out with established parties, ODM, Jubilee, hence showing that, I mean, to convey seriousness to Kenyans, you know, we've been fighting with the big boys and we have a fair share of the cake. If London Ward and perhaps the other areas of Warren is anything to go by. Well, what's your take on this? Well, technological challenges right there allow us to reestablish the connection with Martin Zdiwa right there. But even as we wait for him to join us on the line, let me get back to Jimmy Kagoni, who is here in studio. Let's talk about the UDA factor. The question I had fronted to Martin Zdiwa. What say you about this? They need a follow-up win following the London Ward win, Msambweni Association. The question would be how to strategically leave a mark in this round of by-elections so as to convey the seriousness of this party, despite being new in one way or the other, changing names. How do they show that they're a serious party fighting with the big boys, who are Jubilee and ODM in this case?
Yes, indeed. And they have 2 things to achieve today using the Ruli Award. And no wonder you saw quite a number of members of parliament who drew their weight, and they were there over the weekend to go and support the UDA candidate there. First is I feel they want to achieve to redeem themselves from a bit of losses that they encountered during the last by-elections that we had. And Unfortunately, there was a perception that which started to be shaped by their opponents that this party is not as strong as we thought. The followers are not as many as we thought. We didn't see the reality of what you have actually been displaying on social media and other platforms. And I feel today's election, especially on Ruria Ward, which I am told that it's the years to lose. We are going to see that. It's basically something they want to see whether they are going to redeem their image. And that is going to be quite critical for them. Now, the other thing that they really want to achieve is to reestablish the momentum one more time. Remember, the loss of Machakos was quite huge for them. I saw the members there trying to defend what might have happened and saying that we were trying to establish our base in almost every other corner, even where we were not really felt, and to see, trying to argue that we didn't just go to the areas we thought those were our strongholds. We went to everywhere, unlike our opponents who just decided to concentrate on the areas they were referring as their strongholds. Okay. So I feel like they also want to re-establish their momentum one more time. And the opportunity has occurred, and this is a reward in Nyandarua, to ensure that there is a base. But 2B of that is that you can't really miss to separate the local politics that are happening in Nyandarua. Now, the women rep there is perceived as the one who is engineering and want to really also make a statement. Remember, she has already been mentioned as a front runner for the gubernatorial race against the incumbent and possibly against the current leader of majority leader, Amos Kemunya. And therefore, she really wants to make a statement using this by-election. Now, there is also those dynamics of the local politics that could also be happening there. So she really wants to make a statement in regard to that for purposes of the 2022. The UDA want to re-establish their momentum, and at the same time, they have a face to redeem here. Otherwise, if they lose Rurie today, I can tell you for sure that it will be a hard start anytime soon for UDA. It will be a hard start for any time for UDA. And the only opportunity they have here is none other. It's purely the Rurie Award. And therefore, this one, I know, I'm actually waiting to see who are the agents there. Are they the members of parliament, like we have seen before, where they go and they feel like, because the members of parliament, they have a face, and therefore they cannot really be intimidated and that kind of a thing? Okay. Or are they just going to trust the process, like the IBC said that they have been able to put measures, and therefore everybody should be able to trust the process. Yeah,
interesting, and I'm pretty sure it will be a precursor to what we'll see in Kiamba following this particular results. Let me bring in Martin Stewart. I understand we've established the connection. Talk to me about the UDA factor, the national outlook, and how important it might be for this quote-unquote young party, especially this close, 14 months to the general election. Well, what's your take?
You can hear me now, Rogers, but I think this is a place that Jubilee cannot afford to lose, because Rogers, politics is perception, and UDA has been trying to teeth out. It tried in the BBI referendum. I mean, through counties voting, they failed there. And also some wards by elections, they failed there. I don't think they have a chance in Georgia. That is the backyard of the president. And Ruto, who is behind the UDA, is a rebel. As really declared, he's not there. So, as my friend said there, this is not about ideology. This is not about a substance. This is national politics shaping up for 2022. And I know Ms. Wakupi will come through, even if the electorate are few as you can see just trickling, but you'll come through. The bone of contention here is, can Korea fight Goliath? In my view, I can just console Korea before the results that by crawling, a baby learns to stand. That's another African proverb. Is giving a stamp, but I don't think he has any chance. I don't think Juja people would like to disappoint the president. That being said, I would urge all those who are organizing these polls, both here and Bonchari, to make people vote and make people votes count. I think that is very important in our electoral Rogers, because many times you vote, but the person who counts the vote and announces the results are more important than the voters themselves. And that have really brought down our democracy. So we wish Georgia people well, and I know I support the Jubilee candidate. I want to be on record on that, because Titu was quite a good friend. If the wife can have a chance by convincing people, you're not saying any departed leader should be succeeded by wife. If he can convince people the way he has been traversing that constituency, that would be good. But take it from me, Jubilee will pull through in Juja. Maybe a prophecy, but it might come true.
Let me engage Kagoni right there, because as much as you might write off George Coimbury of the PEP party, he was a frontrunner in the 2017 elections. He came in a distant second following Wakape, who got 66,190 votes, and the PEP candidate in the 2017 election got 10,165 votes, definitely showing the strength of the former Member of Parliament, Francis Waitito. But is it wrong to write out the PEP party in this Juja election? Give us your take on that. Plus, the evening playing field. We've definitely had reports of state officers being used to harass this particular candidate. Moses Kuria has been vocal about it. We've also seen the Murang'a senator also align himself with some of these allegations that the PEP candidate was being targeted unfairly. Give us your take on this.
Maybe just to pick it from where my co-panelist has left it. In fact, I'm told that the PP candidate was actually, before the demise of the former Member of Parliament, he was actually preparing himself to run as an MCA of a particular ward there.
Come 2022?
Come 2022.
Okay.
Now, how that has actually been converted all of a sudden and he's back to go for the parliamentary seat is something else altogether. And maybe that would be actually a question. Up to there, maybe the people of Juja need to ask on the preparedness of a candidate in regard to run for office or even to read them. Because if someone was really preparing for a smaller pool, maybe that is exactly where they had felt their strength, their effectiveness would actually be felt. So could it be just an opportunity that has appeared and they felt, let's run for this? Now, on the other side, I would want maybe somebody to tell me exactly what has been the role of, without due respect, how has been the participation of Mrs. Wakape when the minister was airing at that point, you know, because she had the opportunity maybe to step in and all that and to do that? Or is it just because there is an opportunity that has just appeared through the demise and then she comes aboard? But let me tell you, and I found this to be quite interesting. The other day, I passed there and I was just engaging the constituents, just asking them what they think and all that.
Yeah.
Funny enough, the perception, you ask 10 people and you ask them, who do you think is going to win this race? And they tell you, we think the PP candidate is going to win. And then you ask them, who are you going to vote for? And they say, we are going to vote for the Wakapes. Now, funny enough, like out of the 10 guys that I engaged, 8 of them told me that they are going to vote for Wakape, although they think the PP candidate is going to win. 2 of them are the ones who are voting for the PP, and they thought that he is also going to. So this is literally like a do or die, so to speak, and we can only wait and see how it's going to appear. But then it's also ironical, and you're gonna need to give it this kind of an aspect that Moses Kuria, who is now the leader of the PP, is actually a product of a by-election himself. And funny enough, he's a product of a by-election who was supported by the president himself. And to make it even more interesting is that it is said that the president had to persuade the other opponents to leave it for Kuria so that Kuria could actually get an opportunity. Now, there is an opportunity for by-election again, and this time round, the candidate who is associated with the president is opposed by the candidate the president assisted to come through a by-election. There is a whole dynamic there, very interesting. Okay. And it has also been seen as like Moses Kuria could be perceived to be a little bit disloyal to the president, who actually assisted him and persuaded everybody to clear the way so that Moses Kuria could actually get the opportunity. In fact, if you talk to the locals and the people who understand the politics of the region, they will tell you that was Moses to face the lady who was actually the wife of the former member of parliament in Gatondo, he would have lost.
At that time?
At that time.
Okay.
At that time, you'd have actually lost. So, so it's a bit interesting, and I want to believe maybe it has occurred to him that he was once in a similar situation, and maybe somebody else thought of him in how he'd be able to assist him.
Well, that's an interesting dynamic. Martin Stewart, add your voice to that, but also let's talk about this voter sympathy card, because during the by-elections that usually occur following the demise of a representative, an elected representative, we usually see spouses or family members fronted in one or the other to take that particular position, take up the mantle na kuendelea kazi ile marehemu alikuwa ameanza. That sort of perception. Should we allow democracies to enrich themselves in this sort of way? Is this trend advisable according to you, especially when it comes to the delivery aspect?
Rogers, really, as a politician, let me tell you the truth. You can push your heads to the ring to fight, at the rock of your support, number one, is your wife. They do quite a lot in terms of reception of guests at home, support when you're weak, all this. They also have their women thing with women. So it's not just something that comes up that a wife is considered. There are part and parcel of delivery as an MP. If you don't have that rock, even your performance will be questioned. And that goes also to the relatives, the people you have at home. Being a politician is not easy. It's a community effort. It starts with you and your wife, your family, immediate family, the clan, and it goes on and on, friends. It's a teamwork that makes it so. So you find out when Hero Falls, Waititu did, a wife would be considered because they were part and parcel. Delivery, yes. Anything that I do, in fact, my wife had a lot of suggestions. Now, why don't we do it this way? Sometimes her suggestion is very good. Although you cannot see her face as an MP, the contribution which he gives in the backside really helps a great deal because how they are. So that can be translated to a sympathy vote naturally because of those interactions. So even when my colleague says he was not doing anything really, their input cannot be measured in public. Some are quiet, but in the background, they do quite a lot. Now, for Georgia, again, I think Moses Kuria should learn from these proverbs of Africans, which I say here now and then. Never burn a bridge, which I have seen you through. You may need it back. And I see a lot of disloyalty in doing that, especially the pronouncement which he has been making. I did not know that detail which came from my friend, that he was really pushed through. Other people stepped down for him, by the president, and then his behavior has become something else. Maybe the world, as you always say, might have a say on that. But for now, I think PEP has no chance. Because if that happens, that will revive the aspirations of the UDA, which was quashed through the county assembly voting BBI. And I think the people of Juja knows best, and I think they will come through for this. Lastly, I just want to say again that we need to really develop it in our democracy so that when people vote fairly and the voting processes seem to be fair, whoever wins, people can say it's okay. They don't fight about it. They don't have violence, you know. But that, if that is missing and there is intimidation, that is what causes the problem. Because sometimes I experienced this in my first stop as an MP. When I felt my votes, an announcement came to stand to the other offer. It's a very painful moment.
Okay. Well noted, Martins. They will kindly stay on the line. When we come back after this short break, we'll definitely continue interrogating some key aspects of the by-elections that are slated for today. As we've informed you through our reporters, the polling stations were opened as of 6 a.m. Of course, low voter turnout that characterizes this particular by-elections is witnessed, but hopefully as the day progresses, we'll see an upsurge in the number of voters turning up to cast their ballot. Stay with us. You're watching Morning Express. When we come back, more on Political Point.